Hello everyone, my name is Andrea Mackenzie Rain, and this is my first time doing a YouTube video, and I was inspired by my 10-year-old who's a YouTube whiz kid. So I would like to share a little bit about my novels that I've written over the past few years. And the first novel, my debut novel, Turnstiles. Those are my cheat sheet notes for readings in the pages. I already have a video from the book launch reading for that book. So if you'd like to hear more about that, you can click on the playlist in this channel. And what I thought I'd read from today is the prequel novel. First of all, I'll read the back description of Turnstiles. Martin Sourdough is a homeless person who has chosen to turn his back on the corporate material world. Willis Hancock Jr. is a barrister, an alcoholic philanderer, and a misogynist. And Evelyn, aka Yvonne, is a prostitute. Turnstile speaks to these social problems through the smaller scope of each character's individual trials. There is a struggle that exists between the need to serve one's own needs and the expectation to participate in the larger social scheme. Martin and Willis are both trying to fit into the world, but on their own terms. They are naive, searching for an Eden-like state of being through a broader experience of personal fortune, misfortune, travel, and social interactions. They each learn to accept their path and take control of their own destinies. So in the prequel, I felt that Willis Hancock Jr., his father, Willis Hancock Sr., was kind of painted in a bad light and didn't have a chance to tell his story because unfortunately he's deceased from the beginning of the novel Turnstiles. And so to just give a little bit of a better explanation for him. So, hence, A Crowded Heart. Willis Hancock's, soon to be senior, is a bright, ambitious young man who wants to break out of his small town existence and make a difference in the world. When World War II breaks out, he rushes to enlist despite his parents' disapproval. As the world falls apart, Willis finds a way to forge through and find solace in an incomparable friendship and a surprising brief encounter with a love that takes hold and eventually threatens to jeopardize the life he strives to build while battling his post-war demons. While Willis is set on building a new world for himself with a single-minded goal for personal success, a lucrative, purposeful, easy lifestyle, obstacles are continuously thrown in his path, and he must embrace, overcome, or dodge them entirely. In the course of the choices he makes and the destiny that is chosen for him, he unwittingly drags the people who are closest to him down into the darkness. And so I thought I'd start this video by reading an excerpt from the book. There was talk of the war winding down, even though the battles raged on. There had been talk of the war ending for months, even years. Everyone was tired, and the Allies seemed to have the upper hand for the moment. The liberation of Holland was a pivotal event that was sure to force the Nazis to buckle. Willis tried to push the war from his thoughts as he sat with his new army buddies in a cafe in Eindhoven. Strange, this was the one place in Europe the war wasn't happening anymore, and yet, clearly, it was affecting everyone. It was near autumn, and there were small birds searching for scraps under the tables. Once again, Willis tried to focus on being in the moment, in this place. He watched his buddies swallow their beer in the afternoon sunlight, talk about their girls at home, and burst into wartime choruses. They could have been on holiday. In a way, they were. Willis finished his beer, and almost as soon as he placed his empty mug on the table, a young barmaid appeared and asked him in her best English if he cared for another. The pitcher was low. The sun behind her created a halo silhouette around her light brown pin curls. She had a plain, bright face. Danke, he answered. He could detect her faint German accent and visibly squirmed in his seat. How was it that she was here? The same? She asked. Bitte, he replied. He had an edge to his voice. She gave him a small, closed-mouthed smile and disappeared into the cafe with his empty stein. His friends were too drunk to notice their conversation, as though he and this girl had managed to step out of time. Hey, Willis, why didn't you order a pitcher for us? Sam asked as soon as the girl was out of earshot. Because she asked me, not you, Willis answered smugly. A few moments later, the young girl returned with a clean stein and a fresh pitcher. She turned toward Willis and gave him a secret wink as she set the stein down in front of him. Then she went back inside the cafe. Oh, Romeo, too bad, Sam exclaimed from across the table. I guess she wasn't just trying to get into your army gear after all. Oh, grow up, Willis muttered. Sam was a couple of years younger than the other men. His natural sense of humor helped shield his insecurities and anxiety about his lack of worldly experience, which included women. Willis poured another beer and took a long swallow to hide his smile, while his new friends jostled him. They were a bunch of young yahoos, but they were all lucky to be alive. The British troops captain came around and reminded them that they would be heading back up to the camp soon. They had orders to roll out in the morning. The men didn't have to meet curfew right away, but the young captain was taking a head count of his soldiers and making sure they were all staying in line and not getting too rowdy. Aye, aye, Captain. A few of the soldiers mocked him and gave half-hearted salutes to his shrinking back as the older boy moved down the road. They were all boys. They did like their captain, and they knew he was doing his best and not having an easy time. They simply all hated their uniforms. Are we ready to march up to our bunks? One of Willis's friends asked the group once the pitcher was emptied into their gullets and they began to leave the table, settling the tab and pushing in their chairs. Willis craned his neck to see inside the cafe door. He could see the back of the young barmaid's head as she spoke with another girl. Then she came out with a cloth in her hand and demurely bent over a table with a swift motion. Another girl came out to chat with her briefly and then disappeared back inside. He wasn't sure if he should approach her now or wait until she was finished working. He decided he couldn't wait. He moved in slow and casual, as though he would pass the cafe altogether, and then veered over to speak to her. Thank you for bringing out the fresh pitcher earlier, he said. It was the best conversation starter he could think of because he was nervous. He didn't want to seem nervous and silently berated himself. She looked up from the table with a distracted frown. Then, when she saw him, her face eased into a pleasant shyness that he liked. You are welcome, she said. Your friends looked thirsty, too. He laughed. They were. That was very kind. It is my job, she smiled and turned her attention back to wiping the tables. Her friend came outside again to check on her and flashed him a suspicious look. Then she crooked an eyebrow in amusement. Frida, come inside for your share of the tips, she said, and swung her hips a little more when she left. I'll be right there, Frida answered. She looked at Willis apologetically. I have to go. Me too, he said. But I wondered if I could talk with you for a while after your work is finished. Sure, she said. She balled the cloth in her hand and went inside the cafe. She left the door open. He had placed his beret on his head and swiftly turned to follow the other boys up the road. His cheeks were pink. So those two books are available on my author Amazon page, which you can find in the description of this video. And there is also a third book called Beyond the Summer Grass that is a sequel to Turnstiles. So you can find out more about, mostly about Evelyn and Martin. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you subscribe and that you consider buying my books on Amazon. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.